lot of the stuff during the conference that we heard was a lot of conversation around value and metrics and things like that. I've always sort of sat back and said the first and foremost metric we have to have in S&OP is sort of a customer-facing metric. And so many people get metrics wrong. For me, we use Walmart as a proxy for our customer delivery because we do everything the same way in our distribution center.
Right.
And it's a tough metric. They're narrowing the metric. They're making it tighter. So we use that as our measure of whether we're actually executing against the customer. I'm curious what other people are doing.
Yeah, we do that too.
Yeah.
Because that's the standard. If you can succeed with Walmart, you're going to succeed with pretty much everybody else because their standards are so much higher.
Right.
And putting that through, their stringent MABDs, you've got to make sure that you have the right fill rate, safety stocks, all those kinds of things.
It's perfect fill in a window.
Exactly.
And they're tightening the window. They're actually making the metric tougher in the bottom of it, tighter. It's now 90%. Now they're popping it up to 95% sometime in 2017. I'm always curious what people use as metrics because it's a struggle. And you come to these conferences, and one of the first questions I always get asked is what are the metrics? I have to tell you, there's another question that I get asked a lot. I'm not sure whether you get it a lot. And I think it's just like the first bit of process inertia. Do you ever get asked questions about, what does an agenda look like?
Oh,
like you get
which frustrates me, actually.
Really fundamental, basic questions about S&OP, and you wonder where there's a collective learning. Like we're missing something in the collective learning that
They don't know how to start.
They don't know how to start. They don't know how to put together an agenda.
I think for a lot of folks, it comes down to selling solutions versus selling a product, S&OP being considered a product.
Right.
And if you start with an agenda and literally walk into your milestone meetings in the upper level side of S&OP, and you put a whiteboard statement, one thing that's supposed to orient the entire meeting and keep you from going off topic. So demand planning, when you're in there with commercial, do you sign up to this plan? Is this now handing off to be your plan?
Right.
Because the one responsible for executing the plan is the one responsible to agree to it.
Right.
Supply, can we hit the forecast? Right?
Yeah.
Financial review or IRR, is this feasible? And then what do the executives need to tie break? And if you start from there, agenda building is really a lot easier to do.
Please go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of people, I think, though, try to start with the data, and they generate all these metrics, and then they try to figure out how to put that data or those metrics into an agenda or into a presentation. And really, to your point, it's about answering questions and reducing risk in our business because we've asked the right questions.
I always thought, I never understood whether it's because some of the people that come to these there's a lot of new people just being introduced to S&OP or companies just starting, so they send people here to learn and train about S&OP. But why, I've always had this question, like, why agendas?
I think that you guys hit a nail on the head, which is how do you actually engage discussion, right? So, I mean, for me, the consensus meeting, right, there was always the three little words that you put at the end of the meeting, which was, do you agree, right? Just like you guys said. So that's the discussion, right? And, again, you can't put that into an agenda, right? Somebody has to really foster that. And I think that's something that we want to build.
So let me ask you, this is kind of a tactical question, but do you guys require a formal physical signature as part of your executive S&OP process?
I don't think so.
No, I have not.
I was joking earlier with you guys when I said, perhaps a future session is actually going to be, and we can bring in all kinds of speakers outside of our normal thought process, the psychology and philosophy of true S&OP success. Maybe even, get some kind of psychologist to come in here and talk about how to manipulate people. And, you talk to car salesmen and half the time, you think you're doing well, and then they put out a random piece of paper and make you sign on it just to get you in the mentality. And that's such a great thing to bring up. No, I think more often than not, it's somebody typing away at the minutes. And then you have that short-term amnesia at an executive level when you walk out. Love it.
Right.
It is an interesting concept because now you're forcing people to commit to a plan.
Yeah.
And there's no hedging afterwards. You're all in the meeting. Your name's on a piece of paper. I didn't say that. Well, you signed the document that says you understood what was going on. So next time you should probably pay a little bit more
I think there's
attention.
different ways to do it though, because especially you think about business with complexity. You know, do you sign to what plan, right? The launch plan of this SKU, right? The decrease in this other category, what happens? So I think it's the decisions along the way. So, I mean, you need a level of commitment. I think that's key, right? However
Right.
you do that, whether it's verbal, right? Whether it's written, but you know, usually there's more than one decision there. And then for a lot of us, there's lots of shades of gray. So do we agree that that's the number? Well, we all agree that that's not going to be the number that it's going to end up with, right? When you're talking about a demand plan
Right.
or a supply plan. But is this the direction we're going to go in?
Right.
Yes. How are we going to monitor it, right? Maybe that's equally important.
I have to tell you, last night I had, sort of changing subjects a little bit, I had an interesting conversation during dinner last night. You know, part of the networking that we get out of these conferences, and it went to the value of forecast accuracy and S&OP in general, and there were some touches upon that during some of the panel discussions. You know, I can show a whole bunch of quantitative benefits to S&OP, and part of my conversation was there's no benchmark, no standard model. It's very specific to a company. You can't, I can't say 1% forecast accuracy yields a 1% reduction in inventory because everyone handles inventory differently
Right,
across the
exactly.
board. Like my company saw 25% reduction in inventory, but we make our own products. We don't contract manufacture except for maybe 3 or 4% of our total product line. We have a single point of distribution in the U.S. and Canada. It was easy for us, I think, to get that inventory savings. I'm curious what other savings that you got that were either similar or different than the inventory savings I saw.
I'll maybe just jump in and just maybe take a different spin on it. I think, you know, we talk about S&OP being a business planning process, and yet we always go back to forecast accuracy, service, and inventory, which are really supply chain metrics, right? And, you know, I've had the situation where, okay, we're accurate in our demand, and the demand is 20% off plan.
Right.
So we've got a bigger problem, right? So if you really want to make that a true
Right.
business planning process, how do we solve for the 20%? Okay, we got it accurate, that's good, but that's really only the beginning.
Well, your business is out of control.
Yeah.
You got great forecast accuracy, but your business
That's
is
right.
completely
That's
out
right.
of control.
That's
So
right.
now here's an opportunity to get back in
Yeah.
control. Interesting.
But don't you think at the end of the day, that's all driving back to being more customer centric and
Yeah.
really starting at the end, which is with the customer, and driving that back
Right.
into the organization versus starting with this is what we can produce, this is what we can do, and really starting with what does our
should we?
customer want?
The term demand optimization is really where you start to move beyond planning and management and control into things are going well, accuracy seems okay, but like a solver equation in Excel, what could we optimize better? If we've been at this S&OP cycle and we've already made trade-offs and constraints and now we're performing well to those decisions, is our current mix of our forecasts, the way we're allowing
Right.
customers to, we're sensing their needs, but are we guiding them to what we want?
Shaping
Where could we come in and say, we're
Very true.
93% accurate here, but this isn't the most profitable product. We should
Yeah.
drive this down and increase this. I think S&OP needs to go from being relegated to just being a stewardship function and into a shaping function, so that you get that next level of how many CEOs 10 years from now, God willing, can come out of being S&OP owners.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
going to be where you get to the sweet spot, and it starts to really get elevated. And I'm not sure if it's a good springboard point, but I love coming here because consultants all try to dance around this topic. If you guys have an opinion one way or the other and you want to advocate for why, what are your thoughts on having dedicated S&OP roles? And what do those look like, and why do you think they're needed or not needed?
Absolutely, I think it absolutely is important. I'm in a situation now where I went from being the dedicated S&OP person to now where I am also in charge of demand planning and inventory. And there's too many fires sometimes to hit when you have that dual role. And so I think it comes down to me where if I could focus completely on S&OP, we'd have less fires to fight.
Right.
But I think I'm kind of sometimes divided in what I could put attention to.